All right, a very good afternoon to everyone and a very warm welcome to the NUS School of Computing. My name is Zhen Yi from the Office of Undergraduate Studies, and first of all, a massive congratulations to everyone joining our Information Security program. Today's departmental briefing is designed to help you settle in. We will cover your program structure, your academic requirements, and how to navigate the upcoming weeks before the semester starts. More importantly, this is your opportunity to ask questions and get a real sense of the student experience here. To guide us through today's session, we are very glad to have a fantastic panel with us. Please welcome Professor Roland Yap, who will be sharing the academic roadmap and curriculum details. Damien Lee, a senior InfoSec student who will be sharing how he juggles his studies with student life activities. And Jia Rong, a fellow senior who is active in NUS Grey Hats and the Women in Tech Mentorship Program. Thank you all for being with us here today. So we will have a dedicated Q&A segment at the end of the presentation, so please note down any questions you have for our professor and seniors. Without further ado, let's hand the time over to Prof. Roland to kick off the briefing. Prof, please.
I'm just trying to find the window to share.
All right.
Hi. So welcome to the Info Security Degree Program Briefing. Okay, I'm Roland Yap. I'm an associate professor in SOC. Okay, and I'll just give you a brief walkthrough through the InfoSec program. And you might have seen some of this before. Oh, and maybe this is just a refresher. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so information security is also usually called cyber security, computer security, and as for short, I'll just use InfoSec in this particular talk. Okay, we'll start with just understanding that InfoSec is quite important. Okay, so I don't know if any of you were affected or remember CrowdStrike from 2024. So, by the way, CrowdStrike is just the short name for the event, but it is actually a name of a software. Okay, so it's not actually the name of the thing which happened. It's just that people just call it CrowdStrike. And you can see that in 2024, July, right? Lots of IT systems in mainly transportation-based ones, many more in the US, were affected by CrowdStrike, where CrowdStrike just brought down all kinds of Windows systems over the world, including many from airlines. Singapore was less affected, maybe because there was less usage of CrowdStrike. Okay, closer to home, I don't know if any of you were affected by this. Okay, MOE had this Mobile Guardian app and they had to remove it because of the cybersecurity breach. So this slide just basically mentions to you that security incidents happen all the time. And this is really because in InfoSec, there's the people who manage the systems, people who manage the security, write the software, and so on. And there's the attackers. And basically, it's some form of cyber warfare. The main thing is that there are attackers. Maybe in Singapore context, the most famous one is the SingHealth incident in 2018, right? But data breach with more than 1.5 million patients were exposed. Okay, I won't read through all these things. 2017, NotPetya took down world shipping. right? And that, estimated to have cost 250 to 300 million. Okay, CrowdStrike we just mentioned already. Okay, more recently in this is the end of June, right? Apple suddenly released a iOS security fix, even though it was not really meant to have been planned. So perhaps there was some reason for this. With Apple, things are usually a bit secret, so it's hard to know the details. Okay, so it's just those incidents just highlight the importance of InfoSec. Okay, so as I mentioned that InfoSec is needed simply because of cyber attacks and the fact that attackers attacking all kinds of IT systems is a reality. Of course, this also means that there's opportunity, right? So, InfoSec is one of the few industries where demand exceeds supply. Okay, and of course, for people who are interested in the kinds of challenges which InfoSec requires, well, it might be fun because there's always new things happening, new attacks, new defenses, new scenarios, and so forth. CVEs are well-known vulnerabilities. So just in 2024, there were 40,000 of them in various software. Okay, now, what is InfoSec about? Just to give a little peek, right? You might some of the things you would be looking at to understand and to study and to learn is, how do you make systems secure? You would sort of also get a sense of how hacking works, and this is not really like how it might be portrayed in Hollywood. There may be practical questions like, how do I keep data secret? Right? How do you keep your passwords secret? You might also ask questions like, is Bitcoin safe? Or you can replace it by some other cryptocurrency. If you want to, make some data public, is it safe to do so? Then, of course, the most usual scenario is whether your program, your server, your application, is that secure? Can it be hacked? And so forth. So InfoSec is a study of these things. Okay. Then a common question which might be asked is, what's the difference with computer science? The short answer is that the core part of InfoSec is a specialty in computer science, but there may be other aspects which are outside the computer science, for example, less technical aspects as well. We'll come to that later. Okay, so what is this InfoSec degree now? The BCom Information Security degree program, well, that started in 2015 and is really designed for students whose main interest is in InfoSec, or if you want to join the InfoSec industry, right? And as I said just now, that it is a kind of subdiscipline in CS. So the core is essentially CS, and then there will be various InfoSec requirements in terms of courses and other things. So I alluded just now that InfoSec is not just the computer science part, and in a sense, cybersecurity is multidisciplinary. The core is computer science, in particular, the parts which, there'll be some parts which are just basic computer science, and some parts which are focused on InfoSec. But then there'll be other parts which are outside computer science, like, management aspects and other disciplines. We'll come to that in a second. Okay, so the courses are coded either CS, IFS, or IS. Okay, and in general, the various courses can be divided into four types. There will be NUS requirements, which are for general breadth. Then there will be technical background, which is foundation and core. There will be some courses which are in depth in certain parts. And then there will be industrial relevant aspects. Okay, so for the InfoSec degree requirements, you should just look at the particular SOC website. Do note that different years have different cohorts, and there might be some small differences between different years. So I put a pointer to the 26-27 cohort. So you should just note that if you check the website to make sure that you look at the correct web page. Of course, the between different cohorts, it is mainly the same, but there may be some small differences. Okay, and if you look at the details, you will see that it's exactly what I said. The 5 areas there I've listed. What should NUS and SOC graduate know? That will be the common curriculum. There will be computing foundation, which is the CS part. Then more importantly, there will be the InfoSec requirements, what InfoSec must know. Then there will be the industrial part, like it could be internship. There could be also FYP. There could be CS breadth. Okay, and then you will have some choices of your own, which we call unrestricted UE. And you choose what you want, what you're interested in, and so forth. But do read the fine print of the various requirements needed for the InfoSec program. Okay, this is just a summary of the requirements. Okay, and it's basically, just a reproduction of the web page. So the first course which you would have to cover, apart from the NUS requirements, would be CS1010. And this is basically a prereq of most computing courses. And CS1010 is programming methodology. So basically, you will get introduction to programming, how to program, how to think about programs, and so forth. Okay, and CS1010 is required pretty much for almost every computer science course. There's a NUS requirement for communities and engagement, which is called Gen courses. Okay, I'll come back to Gen courses in a second. Okay, I'm sorry, in the next slide. Okay, so Gen courses is about communities and engagement, and it's one of the pillars under the common curriculum. Okay, and there are many Gen courses. Some of them may be 1 semester long, and some of them may be a year long. Okay, so an important point to take note is that the semester-long Gen courses have limited capacity per semester. So it might be easier for one to take the year-long Gen course. So it depends on what you manage to get. The Gen courses apply to all the NUS students, which will tell you that there will be a lot of demand for particular Gen courses. Okay, so a very important point to note is that for students who are planning to do any kind of enrichment program like a student exchange, NOC, and so forth, or internships, right? That if you are unable to get a semester-long Gen course, you might need to take a year-long one. Okay, so if there's a year-long one, then you got to be careful how does it interact with whatever enrichment program you're taking, because for many of these enrichment programs, you may be away. So just take note of some possibilities. So the diagram shows you some possibilities of taking the Gen courses, which are a year-long one. Okay, so for someone who might be taking NOC or SEP, then, maybe you might want to go for your NOC, let's say in semester 3, which means that, you might, and if you were unable to get a semester long one Gen course, then you might be looking at one which is semester 4 and 5, and so forth. So there are various possibilities apply, but do not leave it to too late. And do take note that, perhaps you can get a semester long one, but perhaps you may only be able to bid for a year-long Gen course. Okay, coming back to the InfoSec requirements and the CS requirements. Okay, so this is an overview of the various courses and dependencies. So please note that in order to take a course, you have to satisfy the prerequisites, and the arrows in this diagram show you the prerequisites. Okay, not everything may be listed here, and I won't go through all the examples. Just now I mentioned that CS 1010 is the prerequisite for almost all the courses you'll be taking. And you can see that's why CS 1010 is way to the left of this slide, right? It's basically the prereq before all other courses. Okay, so only once you've done CS 1010, then that unlocks you to do 2030, 2040, 2100, and so forth. Okay, but it's not prereq for every single course, but for most of them. Okay, and obviously courses are listed as 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and very roughly speaking, you can see that, the 1,000 typically comes before the 2,000, which typically comes before 3,000 and 4,000. Okay, then of course there are also 5,000 courses. Okay, so what's the main requirements for InfoSec? Okay, that's the core InfoSec courses, which is essentially 2107, Introduction to InfoSec, and 3235, Computer Security. So you can think of those two as like a big fat course on the basics of InfoSec. And do note that 2107 is needed for 3235, and these two courses are pretty much needed for every other InfoSec related course. Okay, another requirement is that there is a choice between IFS 4103 and CS 4238. So IFS 4103 is pen testing. Okay, that this is a very special course where you get to pen test, aka find vulnerabilities in existing systems being like NUS ones. So, for example, in the past, pen testing has been tested on, the students have managed to test the system which is used for applications to NUS. Right? So when you apply to NUS, you probably have used that particular system. Okay, so that's the pen testing course. So it's more of an experiential course where you get to do hands-on of pen testing. Then there's CS 4238, which is kind of how to hack systems kind of course. Okay, so one choice is 4103 plus 4238, or the alternative is IFS 4205, which is a capstone project course, where this is more like a project course where you try to build a system where there's certain kinds of security functionality. It is possible maybe to do the combination of all of these three as well, but that will depend on your schedule and how much you can manage to do. Then there's IS 4231. So note that this is IS course, not an IFS course, an IS course. So this is more of a management course, which is InfoSec management. Okay, then there's various electives which are in the area of InfoSec. Now, for example, CS 4239 software security, which is a course I do teach. Okay, there's a legal aspects, IFS 4101, and so forth. Now, apart from the courses which you need to do, you do have the choice of electives. So when you do electives, you can take any course you like. Doesn't have to be CS or InfoSec, but you might need to consider whether you might want to do certain CS courses. So for example, CS 2102, which is on databases, that is not a course which you have to take, but it may be useful to take, right? Because in real life security, often you have to deal with database systems. So it might be useful to know something about databases. If you're doing pen testing, you might need to know something about database systems and attacks on database systems, such as SQL injection. If you're interested in cryptography, then CS3230. Let me see this here. Oh, I don't have it in this picture. Okay, but if you're interested in cryptography, then CS4230 on foundations of cryptography requires CS3230, design and analysis of algorithms, which is not an info security course, but it's really about how algorithms are analyzed, and that is needed for cryptography. Okay, then it's possible to do more individual project work. Okay, this is under FYP and or Europe. Okay, there are two forms. Maybe I start with the second point, which is Europe, CP3209. And that's for students who are interested in doing their own self-exploration. This is typically some research-focused endeavor where it's like a project-related course, but more research-focused. The details will depend on the particular choice of what is one going to explore. Okay, and if one likes that, then you might want to continue on for final year project. Okay, this is also an option, CP4101, Bachelor Computer Science Dissertation. Okay, also known as FYP. Typically it's an individual project, but it's possible to also be a group-based one. Usually it's either some kind of research type project or one builds some kind of system. It can also be used to satisfy internship requirements. Okay, though it has requirement that you need a CAP of 4 and above. Okay, and students who want to get honors, highest distinction, would need to do the FYP project. Okay, for examples of research, undergrad research work for InfoSec, here are just some examples of some of my own students. So Europe, I had a student, Yun Tong. Okay, he managed to win the NUS Outstanding Undergrad Researcher Prize, and the work is as listed there on hardening binaries against more memory errors, which appear in the Eurosys 2022 conference. Another student was doing FYP, and he was involved in a project which investigates how well disassemblers work, in particular whether they have errors or not. Eventually, this work appeared in Asia CCS 2025. Okay, but of course, not every piece of FYP or Europe will be published, but these just are examples of works which are not only research projects, but actually are published in the top conferences. So remember that there's a prerequisite chain, so please remember that you need to do CS2107 first for any other InfoSec course, because there's a prereq for every other InfoSec course. In the same way that CS1010 is a prereq for every other CS and InfoSec course, 2107 is a prereq for every InfoSec related course. Okay, then of course the companion to CS 2107 is 3235 System Security, and that will be a prereq for other more advanced courses on InfoSec. And as I mentioned, 3230 would be needed for any students who are interested in cryptography. Okay, and then there are many variations of things you can choose, like NOC, where you get to go elsewhere, like Silicon Valley. You can also do internships like ATAP, FYP I mentioned, and there's some special options for students who are under the NUS MINDEF Cyber NSF program. I won't say much more about it because that's only for people who applied for that previously. You can do double degree, second major, minor, various exchange programs, and so forth. Just to mention second major, minor, you can see that you can either major or minor in some other discipline, for example, mathematics, statistics, and so on. Okay, there's many, many things one can do there. I refer you to the list. Here are some of the security profs you might interact with. Okay, I won't read the names, but the pictures are there. Well, some people don't have a picture there, and a little bit about their interests. Okay, some other associated profs who are a little bit more sideways to InfoSec, but still relevant in some sense, are listed here. Okay, and just to wrap up the presentation now, I'll just mention some student activities and selected alumni. So Glennis enrolled in 2016. She did very well. You can see that, she was very busy. CTF is a kind of a InfoSec competition. So and the student group which does this is NUS Grey Hats. So there'll be a mention of that a little bit later. And you can see that, she was involved in various hacking and CTF activities. And of course, she also did well academically. Jeremy, it's perhaps more the hacker type, and you can see that he has a very strong CTF CTF achievements. Okay, and I don't know where he's now, but eventually he graduated and joined Apple. Okay, and just to end up, okay, so for students who are coming straight from school, like JC, then be prepared that there will be some degree of culture shock from junior college. The way things are done is different. Okay, it may be more competitive, and we are closer to the real world. And please note that the problems in the real world are not ones where there's a textbook answer. There may be a textbook answer, or it may be problems which we do not know how to solve. And they may just problems where we have some insight into it and some things which can be done, but we may not have the magic bullet. For example, there's no simple magic bullet to make every piece of software secure. There's a path to doing that, but it will be, in general, rather difficult. Okay, and the most important thing of coming to NUS is to learn how to learn. Security is ever changing, so one has to, absorb, adapt, and learn throughout. Okay, and do remember that cybersecurity is multidisciplinary. And of course, we focus more on the good side, so we are the white hats, as opposed to the attackers, which you might consider as black hats. Okay, that's it. Okay, so you know, uh, at the end of your 4 years here, then you get to be that will be the beginning of a journey to become an information security specialist. Okay, and then we move on to some student presentations.
All right. Thank you, Professor Roland, for the
Stop sharing.
overview. Yep. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And next, we will hand the time over to Damien and Tiarong. Damien, the floor is yours.
Okay, wait, give me a bit. All right. Wait, is my mic okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone. Today I am joined with Jia Rong. Both of us are students majoring in information security, and we will share a bit of our experiences so far as students. So I'm Damien, and I graduated from Eunoia in 2020, and then I did my 2 years in NS. And so you realize that actually I finished my first year, like I just finished my first year. So some of my hobbies include making music and solving a lot of puzzles. Back in JC, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I didn't take any programming courses. But my first experience with programming was something I still remember, and it's very memorable. I was really big in math. I was doing math Olympiad problems, but there was this particular problem that I was so fed up with, and I decided to pick up Python just to brute force all the integer solutions to it. It was not very efficient at all, but I managed to solve the problem, and it made me realize that programming can solve problems in a lot of ways that I couldn't solve before. And in all, that it was just a very fun process to be doing. So after putting my hands deeper into programming, one thing led to another, and then I found myself looking down the path of information security. So really, my choice to major in InfoSec falls under the point where it's really more of the curiosity that I wanted to satisfy, and like a certain like passion that I wanted to discover for myself. And I thought that this was going to be a fun and engaging thing. And this really brings us to a point on how you should manage your expectations within NUS taking this course. Some of you may be thinking, oh, I don't know how to code. I don't have any relevant portfolio. I've never done a CTF before. What even is a CTF? These kind of things. But if you've had these thoughts before, I was the same. So really, it's fine. Most of my experiences are music related. You can see in the picture I was in a band, and I'm still doing music stuff in NUS. But I assure you that you'll be fine. Many freshmen don't know how to code at all. Prof. Roland talked about CS1010, which is the Intro to Programming course, and that really will help you build your fundamentals. I will admit that some of the courses can feel a bit technical or dry, but I find that being curious about what you will interact with and what you will learn can really help fuel your passion for the various things that you will come to interact with. Really, students come from all sorts of backgrounds, and it can be difficult to give advice that fits everyone. And what's important is that you find your own way to manage. And sometimes, because of how competitive everything might feel, it can feel very natural that you are falling behind. And grades and academics are a very huge stressor to many students, including me, which is why it's also quite important to build a healthy support system within NUS. And for those staying on campus, I think it's something you can use. Campus living is quite fun, I feel. You can try new activities and make new friends. It can be very fulfilling, interesting. For me, it was playing with the other musicians that I got to interact with in my hostel. And outside of campus living, there's also a lot of activities organized within NUS that you can attend. If I'm not wrong, SOC has orientation camps, and FSC has already passed, but I think FOW is upcoming and FFC is also upcoming. So you can sign up for those if you're interested for orientation. I think Jarong is an FOW OGL, so we'll hear more about that, I guess. I also remember that when school started, there was this activity or event organized by Com Club called Camaraderie, which is a friend-making event. So they put us into groups with other SOC students, and then they gave us this bingo sheet asking us to do tasks together to win the prizes. And we were so motivated to get the prizes that we really like bonded together. Like you see the five of us here, we were one of the challenges was to do lead code together, which was a bit weird, but it was quite fun. I don't know. We won JBL earpieces, and I still keep in contact with those people in that group. And then at the side, you can also join certain clubs or interest groups, which can also be a good way to help forge certain relationships or network with other people. So as an SOC student, you are already automatically a member of Com Club. But if you want to get more involved, you can also apply to join the Com Club committee. There's also various student interest groups. Some of the tech-related ones are NUS Hackers, NUS Game Development Group, NUS Women in Tech. But the one that is probably most relevant, and as Prof. Roland has already mentioned, we have NUS Grey Hats, which frequently organizes and participates in cybersecurity-related events. Jiarong is a Grey Hats member, so you'll hear more about it later when she comes up. I also participated in their CTF once last year, and that was my first ever CTF. It was quite fun because it was like problem solving and like really trying out things that are in this field. I actually placed top 10 somehow. I have no idea how. And then I got to win some cute stickers from them. But my point is, regardless of your interest, there's probably a student community within NUS for you. And now I will hand the time over to Jiarong, who will now share more experiences about the courses.
Okay, thanks, Damian. Hi, everyone. I'm Jiarong, and like Damian, I also just completed my first year studying information security here at NUS, so I'll be entering year 2 this coming semester. One thing I discovered during my first year is that I really enjoy solving Capture the Flag or CTF challenges. I like how they're essentially problem-solving puzzles that let you apply what you've learned in a fun and hands-on way. I'll share a little more about CTFs later, but first, I'd like to briefly talk about what your first year might look like. Like David mentioned, your first year is mainly about building a strong foundation. Most of your core modules are pre-allocated, but we'll go through the basics of timetable planning later on. You'll take modules like CS 1010 to learn programming from the ground up, before moving on to information security modules in later semesters like CS 2107. As you progress through university, you'll also hear about platforms like NUS Mods and EduRec. So EduRec is where you'll be declaring your academic plan and registering for modules, but NUS Mods is really the more versatile tool for planning your timetable. I'll now talk about how a student might use NUS Mods to plan their timetable. I believe you'll be pre-allocated up to 3 courses for your first semester. Some of you will be able to take certain courses depending on your exemptions or prior proficiencies. For this example, we'll pretend you just completed A levels, but the same process can be applied even if you are a diploma holder or otherwise. First, you want to add all your pre-allocated courses to your timetable. You can look at some information regarding these courses on the Courses tab, including things like prerequisites, projected workload, and even reviews from students who have taken this course in the past. Then, can click Add to your semester timetable. From here, you can preview your timetable. We'll pretend that you have been allocated CS 1010, CS 1231S, and MA 1521 here, where you're exempted from MA 1301. Then, add the other courses you intend to take. For this example, we pretend you want to take MNO 1706X, either because you want to add your cross-disciplinary CD course or intend to minor in management, and LAJ 1201 as your UE because you want to learn Japanese, or go for SCP, which is an exchange program in the future. Usually, the lecture slots are fixed when you register for the course, but the tutorials and labs can be bidded for. Click on the tab to view possible timetable arrangements. Note that you should prepare a few versions of your timetable because you cannot guarantee your ideal timetable when you do course bidding on EduRec. Remember to give yourself adequate breaks. And that's it. Now you have your timetable.
And if you really want to plan ahead, you can go to the Planner tab, where you can open up this course planner in NUS Mods, and you can include all the courses that you are exempted from or courses that you plan to take. And from here, you can also automatically click this button, the Add Semester to Timetable, which will automatically like import all of these courses into the timetable for viewing. And the NUS Mods also tells you all of the courses that you have not met prerequisites for, and it will actually give you a warning, which is quite useful if you have difficulty planning out which order to take the courses in. And as a bonus, if you're looking for where your classes are, there's actually a venues tab in NUS Mods where you can search all your venues in NUS. So for example, here we have LT11, which will actually ping on the map for you here. which will help you like plan how to get to your classes or like determine like where you should go between your classes, especially if you are planning to stack multiple classes next to each other. Okay, back to you, Jiarong.
Okay, while some modules can be challenging, I find that they all build on one another. Instead of trying to memorize everything, just focus on understanding the concepts because they'll just keep appearing in your future modules. Yeah, so another piece of advice I give is to make the most of orientation. So for me, personally, I joined F4W last year. And besides helping you become familiar with the campus, orientation is also one of the easiest ways to meet your future classmates and seniors. Since information security has a relatively small cohort, you will likely see many of the same faces throughout your 4 years, so it's a great opportunity to start building friendships and support networks early. Don't hesitate to ask seniors questions too. They're usually very willing to share advice on modules, internships, and university life. So Damon mentioned NUS Grey Hats earlier, and I like to share my experience. So instead of mainly participating in events, I help with the planning and logistics behind our CTF competitions and Security Wednesday workshops. I really enjoy the welcoming community in Grey Hats, and it's given me many opportunities to connect with like-minded peers and seniors while learning more about cybersecurity. Grey has also organizes several flagship events throughout the year. So Welcome CTF is our beginner-friendly cybersecurity competition that's exclusively for NUS students, making it a great first CTF. We also organize Grey CTF, an international CTF accompanied by a cybersecurity summit with technical talks and networking sessions, as well as Grey Academy, which is an intensive cybersecurity bootcamp conducted together with CSA. Another regular Grey Hats activity is our Security Wednesday workshops, where students and industry professionals share cybersecurity knowledge. So one workshop I particularly enjoyed was the Angle Binary Analysis workshop conducted by Solomon Tan, a cybersecurity researcher from DSO National Laboratories. It gave me exposure to reverse engineering tools and concepts beyond what we learned in class. Since I mentioned CTFs earlier, what exactly are they? So CTFs are basically cybersecurity competitions where teams solve challenges across categories like web exploitation, cryptography, reverse engineering, and OSINT. To know certain techniques that are used for CTFs, you can scan this QR code for NUS Grey Hats write-ups for CDC Finals 2025, which is a CTF last year. Yeah. I joined my first CTS with friends, and they have become one of my favorite parts of university life. So some CTFs I participated in include Hack the Box, University CTF, Hacks Event, TISC at DevCon, Midnight Sun, CDC, DSTA Brain Hack, where my team qualified for the finals. Besides Grey Hats, I also joined initiatives organized by NUS Women in Tech, such as the Mentorship Program, where I was paired with a cybersecurity engineer from IBM and an incident response specialist from Accenture. Through our mentoring sessions, I gained a much better understanding on the cybersecurity industry, learned how to prepare for internships, and received advice on a self-directed cloud security project where I'm building a cloud phishing detector. So overall, I'm really glad I chose information security, and I hope that all of you will enjoy your journey here just as much as I have so far. Don't be afraid to ask questions, try new things, and step outside your comfort zone. Thank you, and I wish all of you the very best for your first year at NUS.
All right, thank you, Damien and Jiarong. We will now move into our Q&A segment. This is your time to clarify anything about your courses, student life, or what to expect in your first semester. So if you have a question, right, please first check the answered question in the Q&A box function, and we will try our best to answer your question live. Go ahead, attendees, anything that comes to your mind, please feel free to put in the Q&A question. All right, so we shall wait for any questions. Yep.
Just want to mention while we're waiting. Okay, so I think Damien already mentioned that he didn't know any programming, so he took CS 1010 and learned programming. However, even if you had some programming experience, and perhaps maybe you may have got a waiver for CS 1010, it does not mean that you should necessarily just waive it. Right? Because even though you have done some programming, perhaps you haven't done it systematically. And CS 1010 has many fun things in it. Of course, it's work to learn programming. So programming is not necessarily so easy, but if one doesn't learn it properly, then might be you might regret it later that you have to pick those things up later by yourself.
All right. There's a question from Delbert. It say, thank you, seniors, for the sharing. How do I join NUS Grey Hats?
Okay, so for NUS Grey Hats, they'll open their applications around end August, if I remember correctly from last year. So then like they'll ask you like, oh, why are you interested in joining NUS Grey Hats, and similar questions inside the form. Then after that, it's just an interview to figure out, because there's different committees in NUS Grey Hats that you can join. So for example, I'm in the logistics committee. There's also like the events planning committee. There's also media, etc. So basically you have to like indicate your interest, and then they'll do like a interview. So like it's a small interview with maybe you and a few others. Then they'll just ask you about your interest in grey hairs, etc., and your experience in the role that you applied for. Yeah.
Okay. Our next question from Jialing. May I ask, for an undergraduate student joining the lab with an interest in cryptography, what does the typical onboarding process look like?
Okay, not sure what you mean by joining the lab. We don't have a joining the lab part. Okay, so there's cryptography courses, and so remember I said that there's 2107 and 3235. There will be small part of cryptography in those courses, but the real cryptography courses are really the 4000 level ones. Okay, and they will be much further down the chain because there's a prereq chain, so 1000, 2000, 3000, 4000, and to reach the 4000 you have to have done the 1, 2, 3 first. I'm not sure if that helps you answer the question, but please feel free to refine your question.
All
I
right.
don't
So
think there are any pre-allocated modules or courses. So in the past, modules was the terminology for the course, but nowadays the word module has been changed back to course. I don't think there are any courses which are pre-allocated. It's up to you to choose. But do note the dependencies. What laptop and specifications? Pretty much up to you. No special recommendation per se. If you want to do cryptography, you don't need the algorithms course. For Zatan was asking. So if you're asking, does that make CS3230 mandatory? Yes, if you want to do those courses. Because remember that every course has its own prerequisite, which is independent of the program. Of course, the program may require certain courses, which are mandatory, and there will be various electives which are part of the program. which is not to be confused with UE, which is unrestricted elective.
Okay, so Kaiser, hope your answer has been answered by Prof. Roland. Be aware of your planning. And we will move on to the next question. I noticed there's a bit of a repeated question regarding laptops, right? And just to clarify, we do not really recommend a specific laptop model. You can actually check with our NUS co-op, which sells the models commonly acquired by NUS students. At the end of the day, your laptop should meet the minimum requirements, able to handle the digital assessments. Okay, so no particular recommendation of a model. Just make sure that your laptop can handle all the exam requirements.
Probably Windows is a little bit more convenient.
Right.
But note that you can run Windows on a Mac as well. May require a slightly more complex setup. And of course, there would be licensing and other issues. But in principle, you can do that. And make sure you got enough memory.
Okay, for all the attendees, we'll just hold on for a few more moments. Keep the questions coming. If we have no questions, I'll end the session soon, but we'll hold on for a bit more. Just feel free to ask any questions that come to mind.
We will also have InfoSec welcome tea sometime after semester starts.
Yes, that's right.
I
So
forgot now, maybe around week 2, I think, or something like this.
correct. It's August of 19. It's a Wednesday. So I'll be sending the invitation to all InfoSec students, including the seniors. So this is an opportunity for some networking. As Jia Rong mentioned, you might see each other quite often in the InfoSec cohort. So feel free to have a chance to speak with each other before the semester gets really busy down the road around week 3 and week 4. So we'll keep the InfoSec gathering around August 19. That's a scheduled date. Yeah.
Any level 2 maths on pen and paper? Well, every mod could have, pen and paper requirements, like for example, exam, right? And some courses would certainly require the use of a machine, aka laptop, or your own machine, or some other machine. And that really depends on the course. So do note that the details are pretty much course specific. How heavy is the math? I think that depends on your path. So note that essentially there are maybe not only 2 paths, but most common there are 2 paths, right? One would be perhaps the software path, software/hacking/testing path, and the other one may be more the crypto path. Crypto path would certainly be math heavy. So crypto path would require that you have good mathematics, but the other paths would be pretty much normal CS. It does not mean no maths, okay? But perhaps not a special emphasis on mathematics, though mathematics is required. And if you look carefully at the various courses you need to take, there will be math requirements as well. So some math courses have to be taken as well. Exposure to quantum. Okay, offhand, I'm not quite sure whether we currently have a specialist quantum course, but there is some talk about a new quantum specific course. But whether the excellent courses have any special focus on quantum, I don't recall. But courses do change from time to time. That means there may be new courses, some previous courses may or may not be mounted, and so on. But there will be also new ones. Okay, so AI/machine learning. So don't get confused between AI and machine learning. You can think of machine learning as a subpart of AI. Okay, so the InfoSec program doesn't have any special requirements with respect to AI and machine learning, but you can take those courses. So remember that you have various electives, in particular the UE. And do note that at your time at NUS, it's up to you to plan your own courses. Only you know what you are interested in. So depending on what your interest is and what career path you want to achieve, then you might have to tailor the courses to meet those needs. Okay, so the program, apart from anything which is mandatory, is quite open. Is it possible to transfer to CS? I think so. Though I don't do the admin.
Yeah, to transfer to CS, if you decide later to do so, it would be a separate application to the Office of Admissions. So there will be an application window which you need to refer to the Office of Admissions website. Yeah.
But to note that for students who are under the MINDEF Cyber NSF, then there's special requirements there, which might not mean that can simply just transfer like that.
If you're a
Those
cyber
have contractual requirements actually.
correct.
But the contractual requirements are not with NUS, but they are with MINDEF.
Everybody must be informed of your decision. Yeah.
But it's only relevant for students who are under the NUS MINDEF program. Offhand, I don't know the direct answer to that question. Have to check the curriculum.
Yeah. So Kaiser is asking whether the graduation requirements can be replaced CS2040C to CS2040S. So it's a case-by-case basis. Usually when you're talking about variants of the same course, more likely than not, if required, I assume that if it's a transfer case, right, from InfoSec to computer science, the possibilities of you getting an approval will be very high. You do need to map over your 2040C as a replacement. It doesn't make sense for you to actually repeat the course just to fulfill that strict requirement of getting the variant right. So we will recognize any similar courses taken as per the example provided, CS2040C to CS2040S. So again, if there is such a situation, do reach out to us to undergraduate office. We will review every case, case by case basis. Yeah.
But do not assume auto approval.
Correct.
So do note that different variants of courses exist for a reason. yes, there are some courses which are to do with entrepreneurship. You might also want to take a look at NOC, but just be aware that NOC is extremely competitive. I think SOC has probably maybe the highest rate of NOC or something like this. But it is very competitive because many students in NUS, the whole NUS want to do NOC, right? Many students want to have a stint in Silicon Valley, and but there's only so many places, right? Okay, so to take a look at some of the entrepreneurship programs. There's also competitions that you can uh, apply for and so forth. And if you win the competition, then you can even get funding. I don't know the answer to that question.
Right. So, question, does SOC look at the pre or post SUC GPA for SEP?
I'm not
Usually,
sure if
right.
we manage SEP or is some other part in US.
Okay, my colleague is typing an answer for you.
But please note that admin questions are best asked at the undergrad office because it might involve not only SOC undergrad office but other parts of NUS.
Mhm.
Similarly, I don't think SOC manages NOC either.
Okay, so for that question, the answer is post SU for SEP. Yeah. All right, any final questions that come to mind? Maybe we can have one final one before we close the session. Okay, and calling once, calling twice. Any additional questions? Okay, perfect. That's a wrap for the day. If you have any administrative questions down the road, right, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at the Office of Undergraduate Studies. Okay, the fastest way to get help is to raise a service ticket through sociug.com.nus.edu.sg. And last but not least, welcome once again to NUS Information Security. Thank you so much for Prof. Roland, Damien, and Jia Rong for your time today. And have a wonderful evening, everyone. Goodbye.
And we will see you next month,
Yes.
or maybe even earlier.
Yeah. Have a good one, everyone. We will end the
Okay,
session.
bye-bye.
Goodbye.